now let's move on to the main race.
Yes.
Now that we talked about all these hypothetical things that are not going to happen. Great. Can you tell me the starting grid?
Yes, I have the starting grid here. So we have Bez, Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo, Marc Marquez, Frankie Morbidelli, Luca Marini. Then we have in the third row, DG, Pecco, Pedro Acosta. Then we have Fermin Aldeguer, Jorge Martin in 11th, Joan Mir 12th, Miguel Oliveira, Raul Fernandez, Ayogura, Brad Binder, Maverick Vinales, Alex Rins, Johan Zarco, Enea Bastianini, Jack Miller, Augusto Fernandez, and Somkhet Chantra in 23rd, finishing off the grid.
So 23 people started the race.
Yes.
And 16 finished us. So
Insane.
just to bring this up, first of all, then I will say biggest loser of lap 1 is the one and only Joan Mir. I tried to look up the crash itself. The only thing I found so far is, I think, a fan from the stands uploading
Which is
the
also,
incident.
I would want to issue a formal complaint to MotoGP Video Pass that we didn't see this. And we didn't see multiple of the crashes. And we did have a lot of crashes. And granted, we did have a lot of action on the track.
Yeah.
But I feel like there were definitely opportunities to show those crashes, which I'm a little bit upset about.
I would actually argue. I think the race was actually very, very good.
Yes.
However, for how good it was, it wasn't actually that much happening.
Well, because we didn't see the things that were happening.
Well, I'm saying, like, yes, there was a lot of like crash outs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So Joan Mir being the first one, Joan Mir actually having crashed out also during the Friday practice, didn't even participate in the sprint race,
Yeah.
and doesn't make it past lap 1. From the crash that I've seen, and like the video that I've seen right here from the fan uploading it from the stands, it's very difficult to tell. But essentially, as Johan Zarco's bike was stuck inside Joan Mir's bike.
Interesting.
It was like kind of stuck together.
Because the interesting thing is also because Joan Mir started in 12th and Johan Zarco started in 19th.
Yes, and then Johan was able to get his bike back out of
Yeah.
it. And he was able to return to the race. He was like, he fell off hard. Like, he lost so much time. Even there was a bunch of people who got long lap penalties.
Yeah.
But I don't think he actually made it to the finish line at the end.
No.
Like they were like, okay, you're like a lap down or whatever.
Yes.
So,
and it's also such a bummer. So Johan Zarco crashed in the first round, right? I'm assuming Joan Mir went down and then Zarco couldn't avoid him and maybe crashed into him.
It doesn't look like that.
Oh, okay,
It kind of looks like, from the angle that I'm seeing, and it's kind of far away and tiny. It looks like they were kind of went off together. So there must have been contact in the corner.
Interesting.
And then they kind of were off.
But anyways, so Zarco crashes. He is able to get back on track. And then he is the only rider who doesn't get a point. He finishes the race,
like,
but he
fucked up,
doesn't
dude.
get a single point, which is such a bummer.
Do we want to go over everyone who unfortunately crashes out, and then we'll get into the race real quick?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah.
So Ayogura, second lap,
Yes.
he unfortunately crashes out. Then Maverick Vinales, recovering from his dislocated shoulder,
Yes.
back on track.
Finally back on track because he missed a couple races.
Yeah.
He got injured during the
Doing
Saxon ring.
exactly.
So such a bummer because I always love seeing him on track, and he's had some really competitive races this year also.
The Batman, yeah. He is Enea Bastianini's teammate.
Yes.
Enea joining him also by crashing out in lap 11.
Yes.
So unfortunate because he had an excellent start. He jumped 7 positions.
Not only that, he jumped 7 positions in the start. He ended up making up even more positions throughout the race until he crashed out. Such a bummer. And then we also had Pedro Acosta in lap 7. He had to finish or leave the race because he also lost his chain.
Yes, so this was 3 times this race weekend where the KTM, the main team, quote unquote, had chain issues. A chain broke 3
frustrating. And also
times.
Pedro was livid.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so upset, just like Brad Binder the day
Because
before.
He was catching towards third place Alex Marquez at the time. And it's always frustrating when you're DNFing for something that isn't your fault, especially technical failure,
Yes.
but also that this is like the third time the same issue.
Yeah.
Twice it was Brad that got hit with it. And then this time Pedro. Very unfortunate. So that was lap 7. We had in lap 8, we had Pecco Bagnaia going down, crashing out. He made actually up a few positions, I think 2 positions. He started in P9, right? You said?
He started in 8.
In 8. Oh, then he was in 7th, and then he just like the bike slid out underneath him, and he was out, and it's just so heartbreaking once again to see them
yes.
that. And then we had a Rins. I don't know his first name.
Alex
Rins.
Yeah.
Crash out in lap 9.
Yes.
Super
also,
frustrating.
Which a bummer for him. Alex Rins and Augusto Fernandez got a long lap penalty. Or double long lap penalty for a jump start, which is really frustrating.
And then Jorge Martin had to park the bike in the siding lap?
Yeah.
I think he had to park it. So that meant that he had to switch out the bikes.
Because of technical issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was allowed to start from his starting position, but then he got a double long lap penalty as well, which is just, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because you have to serve them in a certain time frame most of the time when everyone is still together.
Yeah.
So serving
because you have to do it, I think, you have to do the first one within the first 4 laps. And then also he had started in 11th, which was such a great starting position for him. He had finished the sprint race in 8th place, which is also a great result for him. So it's just such a bummer that he had that. He did end up in 13th at the end, so he ended up getting 3 points.
Yeah.
But I'm sure without those double long lap penalties, he would have probably ended up a little bit higher in the grid.
Yeah, it's just all super unfortunate. Now let's talk about the start.
Yes.
Start of the race. We had Marc in the second row. How dare he? But he was like, "Have you seen this cool trick where I go to P2 in T1?" And that's what he did.
Yeah.
He had an excellent start. Sorry, real quick. I don't like circling back, but I did also, because we have the video pass with MotoGP. And I did also go into the video pass because I was hoping, kind of like F1, to bring it up again, that you could view individual riders' perspective, but you cannot, which is really annoying.
Interesting. I've honestly not played around much with the video pass yet. I just always watch
You can watch like the helicopter view, and then it gives you like different options for views, but it doesn't really tell you what you get to see with that. Sorry, this is a fly. So I don't know, maybe I have to play around a little bit more with it, but I wasn't able to just because I was able to watch Marc start. It was fantastic.
Gotcha.
But then I was like, okay, let me see if I could select like Joan Mir or Johan Zarco, but I wasn't able to select their perspective, which is, I think, is a little frustrating because all of the bikes have that.
Yeah.
And we're paying $130 a year for this, I think. So let me watch people's perspective.
Seriously.
Yeah. Now, however, fantastic start by him.
Yes.
Quartararo had a bad start. He actually ended up dropping quite a few positions. Yes. Alex Marquez only dropped 1 position because Marc obviously overtook him, and then Bez was able to defend his P1 position. He had an excellent start, and then that was kind of them settling in, the 3 of them in the front. In the beginning, you had of course Pedro, who ended up overtaking it, and he had a little bit of a gap to Alex, which I think it was less than 2 seconds, but he was cutting that down, and they were still like over, I'd say, like 20 laps to go, right?
Yeah.
So this was like definitely time that he could have made up.
Yeah.
Who knows how much like tire he would have had left off.
True.
But he would have, if it wasn't for the technical difficulties, I think he might have been able to take that fight to Alex. And then it was really the Marc Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi show at
which
that
I thought
point.
was so cool. It was a great battle between the two of them because they were
absolutely.
so close. Bez was leading by I think half a second, 0.6 tenths, 7 tenths every once in a while. But it was like a really great battle between the two of them until
And then this was about, I believe, lap 13. That is when, I think, like lap 12, this is when Marc was like, okay, let me start putting on the pressure.
Which is not surprising because we know Marc settles in
He doesn't mind
second
riding
place
in second.
sometimes. Yeah, just also maybe observing, saving the tire, or waiting for the tire to get into the right window until he attacks. So you can never just relax in the front, even if there's like a half a second to Marc.
Unless you're able to, how Alex did it in the previous race, where you're able to carve out like over a second. And then if you're able to maintain it, because I know Marc, once again, he doesn't mind sitting in the second place, but he likes to still maintain the pace.
Yes.
He's like, okay, if you're riding at this, I can slot into that and, just kick back and quote unquote relax for a little bit. We know going into the race, the commentators also said it, that he was very much out for quote unquote revenge.
Yes.
He was very upset with his own mistake because, I mean, this narrative that has been the whole season, this whole season long, that Marquez's biggest enemy on track is himself.
Yeah.
And the few times he didn't win a race, or like, it was sometimes also his mistake. I mean, last race, it was just last race weekend, it was all Alex. He was incredibly strong in Barcelona. There was no way. But we had earlier this season where Marc dropped the bike, and that was his fault. There was no one else at fault. So him doing that again in the sprint race definitely gave him, he said, concentration and fuel for this
race. 100%.
He said that in post-race. But yeah.
Because it destroyed a streak that he had. He had such an excellent streak, winning the sprint races, And
he cares about that stuff.
Of course.
And of course, no one wants to crash out, right? Yeah. Let's be real for a second. But he also said in his post-race interview, like, he went on the attack and he knew that no one is going to ride a perfect race for 27 laps. Yes. He's going to make a mistake. And we also have to be aware that Marc is more comfortable in situations like this, I would say, than Bez, because of experience, right? Marc being a 6-time world champion, you have been more often in situations like this than Bez. That's just a reality of it. And then in lap 13, Bez, I think it was T8, he ends up going wide. Marc, of course, jumps on the opportunity and overtakes. However, he doesn't do the thing that we all thought he would do. Well, he did for a moment. He did create a gap, but then Marco was like, hey, have you seen this cool trick where I'm at home and I know this track really well? And he was pushing and pushing, and they were pushing each other for fastest lap almost every single lap.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal race, and this is what made it so exciting because, okay, we all know overtaking Marc Marquez is not an easy opportunity. Just because you can hang with him doesn't mean that you can overtake him, right?
But most people can't even hang with him.
Exactly. And I would say that there was a little bit of an advantage to Marco because this is his home race, right? We're racing in Italy, and he has the audience behind him, right? That gives you an extra 5, horsepower. That's just the law. And he did a phenomenal job in sticking with Marc. He cut the
time.
gap down, I think, at some point down to like 2/10.
And I mean, also the times that they were pushing out towards the end. I mean, I think the second to last lap, the third to last lap, Bez had a fastest lap. Then right after, Marc is like, I'm going to have the fastest lap. And then his fastest lap was faster than some riders had in qualifying.
Yeah, this was like the last 2 laps of the race. They were pushing qualifying times faster than other people on. You have to keep in mind, at this point, 25 lap old tires.
It's insane.
I get that the bike is the lightest it can be at that point.
Of course, but like still, the tires also, you're just exhausted.
That you're doing qualifying times.
It's hot. That's
crazy.
But it was also nerve-wracking because sometimes you saw Bez's bike just like shake, and I was like, Bez, just stay on. I know you want to win, but don't lose this podium. And I'm sure he's aware of that. But then you also hear the audience like,
and then it gives you that extra push,
right?
Yes. And I'm just glad that in the end, Marc won. He also pointed out that Ducati this year also won both Italian races, which was very important to them. And I think in a way, this was also important for Marc.
Yes, 100%.
Because he mentioned it, I think that makes it important.
Yes.
And I think also, all the riders were super exhausted
Yes.
after the race. Marc and Alex, who ended up coming in third, and let's be real, just like Alex has a phenomenal season. Alex was having the MotoGP season of his life.
Yeah.
He was behind 7.7 seconds behind
It's insane.
Marc
Yeah.
at the end. So to Bezzecchi was 7 point, let's say 2.
2, yeah.
And that's how much they were pushing each other.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so exciting. Even though technically there was no overtaking, it was very exciting to watch, just them pushing each other. And I wasn't thinking that Bez would be able to overtake him. I think the only way Bez was going to overtake Marc if Marc made a mistake.
Yes.
And
Or if Marc would push too hard and then
yes,
like,
but I think because that happened the race before, I think the likelihood was very slim of that happening. It's never none, because this is MotoGP, and sometimes when you see them going around the corner and they're literally on this bit of the tire of the bike, that's insane. But what an insane race. And part of me also has like so much love, but also a little bit heartache for Marco Bezzecchi, because he said in his post-race interview he probably rode the race of his life, of his MotoGP career, and you're still second.
Yes.
In a way that is heartbreaking. But you have to keep in mind that I think last season he would have won this race. I think, I think if he would have had this type of performance, last year, he would have probably won. But Marc being Marc this year, and just whatever the fuck Marc wants to do, it's just in a way it's a little bit heartbreaking, because like you leave your everything out there. You're at home, right? And yes, second place is great, right? But it's like
you're like this close, and you were this close the entire race, and you make this one mistake, and you made the mistake. So I get the heartache, but you can see, like, as soon as he walked up to Jack to do his post-race interview, I was like, oh my gosh, he looks dead.
He looks exhausted.
So exhausted. He even said in the cool-down room that he had barely the energy to jump up onto the barrier to celebrate with his
belly flopped on it first, and then he and when you're on those acrobatic mattresses, it's like running on sand. Like it just sucks the energy out of you.
And then you could also see him. He was on the fence, and then he closed his shield for a second and looked down, because I'm sure it's just bittersweet.
Yeah.
You're second. You did win the sprint race. You're at home. It's a great moment. But then, like you said, it's just so close.
It just wasn't, unfortunately, good enough, and that's heartbreaking.
And as much as I love, of course, Marc Marquez, I also like Marco
absolutely.
Bezzecchi, and I'm rooting for him. And I love that he's been having this
fantastic season.
Especially the second half of the season has been so incredible, because I think the first couple of races he didn't quite mesh with the bike, but once it clicked, it's been beautiful to watch. And so I have a lot of hope for him for next season, that maybe he is a contender for the top rider champion position.
Yeah, and I think hoping that at that point Jorge Martin will also be up to speed, because they are on a bike that is competitive.
Yeah.
And I will also say, going into the season, I'm also like Aprilia, knowing that their number one rider, right, is out, right? Yeah. And then you have Bez, and he was kind of nowhere in the beginning, like he wasn't really on the red shirt, and then all of a sudden he's getting this momentum, and he's having a fantastic season. And as much as I'm an Enea Bastianini guy, like Marco has found his way into my cold heart.
He's charming, and he has like
he always gives us kisses.
Yes, exactly.
No, but he's a great guy, and like, how can you not root for that?
No, exactly. So we had on the podium, we had Marc in first, Marco in second, and Alex in third. We also had at the park farm Kimi Antonelli, another F1 driver. He was there chatting with all of the podium contenders, which was really nice to see that we had two different F1 drivers there for this weekend. We in fourth place this time. The first VR46 is Frankie Morbidelli, followed by his teammate Digi, which is really nice. And then in sixth, we have Fermin Aldeguer.
And then also really tough, Luca Marini in seventh. He started further ahead, didn't he?
He started in sixth.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, he still lost the position, but I thought he started,
Well, he lost a couple more positions originally, but then he was able to make up. I mean, also because of Pedro, he ended up making up one, but still,
And then Quartararo, unfortunately, not a lot of pace. Dropped all the way down from third to eighth, which is tough.
Yeah.
But so 16 riders made it all the way to the end.
Yes.
But yeah, once again, we are usually pretty happy about the MotoGP broadcast, but this time around we didn't get a lot of replays, which is a little bit unfortunate. We might have to wait until the highlights is out on YouTube, which they're not as good as once again F1 yet, but Liberty Media, I'm not sure when exactly they're going to be starting to run all of that. So I'm sure eventually it will be up to par, because they are doing a really good job with the like posting the post-race interviews on there and having the highlights and stuff like that. So yeah, a little bit could have been better with the replays, especially because how odd the whole John Mir and Johan Zarco was with the bike literally stuck in the other bike. It was so weird.
But it's also like, because they have the possibility to do the in-screen,
They do that all the time.
They do it, exactly. They do it all the time. So I don't understand why they didn't show it. They can even show it several laps later. I don't care. I just want to see it.
Yeah.
Just curious, you
and
know?
It also didn't sound like anyone got like insanely injured,
which is good, of course.
Which is good, but I could understand if you're not showing a replay if someone got like terribly injured,
of course.
But
yeah,
but as far as I know, nothing else.
But so now we have a week off before we're heading to Japan for the next round, where potentially Marc Marquez will take his 7th world champion title. Because currently he's leading. He's actually he has the most points anybody has ever had
in a MotoGP
championship.
He has 512 points.
Yes, and we're not even done yet.
We have 6 races to go. Just for comparison, Jorge Martin won the championship last year with 507.
Yes,
and Marc has to essentially score 3 points ahead of his brother
in the Grand Prix,
in the main Grand Prix. So sprint race doesn't even matter, I guess, in order for him to win, which is essentially if Marc wins the Japan race, then he will clinch the championship then already instead of later this season, which I mean, that's gonna happen. I mean, I don't think there's anyone thinking that's not happening at this point. It's just a matter of when.
Yes.
So I think that will wrap up everything we have to say about MotoGP. Once again, very happy with the race. I genuinely enjoyed it. It was very, very competitive race. Now we're going to move on.